What happens when the glittering facade of the city that never sleeps begins to crack, revealing vast, empty hotel rooms? On a Labor Day weekend, a time that should have been a guaranteed sellout, the silence is deafening. The numbers are a catastrophic blow. Las Vegas occupancy plummeted to a mere 76%, a staggering 7% freefall from just last year. People are still coming, but the magic is gone. They arrive expecting wonder and leave feeling cheated, calling it a hollow, overpriced disappointment. And here's the desperate truth. The casino empires aren't just passively watching their kingdom crumble. They're scrambling, throwing out life rafts in the form of veteran discounts and hollow 2-for-1 deals at the High Roller and Eiffel Tower. The Strip is frantically deploying survival tactics behind a veil of normalcy. But the terrifying question remains, are these desperate ploys enough to reverse the death spiral? Or are they merely flimsy band-aids slapped on a festering mortal wound? Brace yourself, because the reality is far more alarming than you can imagine. This is the Great Discount War, a desperate race to the bottom. Forget the image of empty slot machines. That's not the true harbinger of doom. The first undeniable warning sign of Vegas's collapse is the sudden, desperate deluge of hotel discounts flooding the market. For decades, this desert oasis built its empire on an illusion of opulent excess, gouging customers with premium rates and a mountain of hidden fees. But now, in 2025, that arrogant narrative is shattering. The titans of the Strip, MGM Resorts, Caesars, and their ilk, are now on their knees, peddling 20% booking discounts, trivial gift shop credits, and cheap show tickets in a frantic bid to entice wary travelers. Make no mistake, these are not generous gestures. They are the panicked convulsions of a dying giant. And why is this so catastrophic? Because in Las Vegas, hotel occupancy isn't just a metric. It's the very lifeblood of the entire city. So, when the official body, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, is forced to admit a plunge to a dismal 76% occupancy during peak season, it's not just a statistic. It's a verdict. It's a blaring citywide warning siren. That seemingly small 7% drop represents tens of thousands of ghostly empty rooms and millions upon millions in hemorrhaged revenue. Now, imagine that financial poison spreading through the casinos, the restaurants, the theaters. You begin to see the terrifying domino effect. How one disastrous season triggers a cascade of layoffs and boarded up businesses. The visitors themselves are sounding the alarm. Their words brutally honest. It just doesn't feel busy. One couple from Wisconsin confessed, their disappointment palpable. We always come for Labor Day, they said, but this time, it feels hollow. And their outrage wasn't just about the room rates, it was the insult of being gouged for basic necessities like a bottle of water or a simple meal. It's a fatal miscalculation. No matter how many cheap perks the hotels dangle, if a guest feels bled dry by 1,000 tiny cuts, they will not come back. It's that simple. The core promise of Vegas, that for one weekend you could live like royalty, is being systematically dismantled by their own greed. But the crisis deepens because by dangling these discounts, the casinos are committing a cardinal sin. They're training their customers to expect a bargain. It's the same catastrophic trap that ensnared retail giants, teaching the public that paying full price is for fools. This is why the discount war is a poison chalice, a short-term fix that could lead to long-term ruin. Will it temporarily boost numbers, or will it permanently tarnish the very glamour that defined Las Vegas? But the desperation doesn't end with slashing prices, and this is where the story takes an even more disturbing turn. In a desperate attempt to salvage their sinking ship, they are fundamentally altering the entire Vegas experience, and the strategies they're deploying are more shocking than any price cut. They call it reinventing the experience, but it's a carnival of freebies, perks, and forced spectacle. If slashing prices was their opening salvo in this war, then Vegas's second tactic is a far more revealing act of desperation, turning the entire city into a cheap bundle of trinkets. Picture this. You check in and they hand you not just a room key, But a flimsy voucher for the high roller, a cut rate pass to the Eiffel Tower, or some leftover show tickets. Suddenly, it's not about the luxury of your room anymore. It's about desperately sweetening the pot just enough to stop you from choosing Phoenix, Miami, or, the ultimate insult, even Reno. And why this pathetic scramble? Because the Strip, in its arrogance, has lost its iron grip on entertainment. For years, it operated with impunity. Las Vegas once held the crown, the undisputed king of neon-drenched spectacle and round-the-clock indulgence. But in 2025, that monopoly is shattered. Visitors now have a world of options, cheaper resorts across the Southwest, all-inclusive cruise ships and sprawling theme parks are bleeding away the very tourists who once flocked to Vegas without a second thought. To fight back, the hotels are desperately packaging experiences, a hollow attempt to resurrect the ghost of value that once made this city legendary. But here is the fatal flaw in their plan. The tourists see right through it. Christina, a first-time visitor, dismissed the incentives as shallow. Her friend Debbie was even more damning. A loyal, repeat guest, she confessed, "It's just not enough to make me come back." And this exposes the terrifying truth. The flashy perks are a meaningless facade if the fundamental experience is broken. When essentials like food and water are outrageously overpriced, these so-called freebies become a transparent, insulting sham. After all, what kind of victory is saving $20 on a ride when you've just been gouged for $9 for a single bottle of water? But make no mistake, on the corporate side, this desperate bundling of perks is bleeding them dry. Every single complimentary ticket and discounted attraction is a hemorrhage, draining the very revenue streams that once felt invincible. For a city built on the illusion of endless crowd, each empty discounted seat serves as a grim omen of just how razor-thin their margins have been sliced. And the branding? It's a catastrophe in the making. When a city that sells itself on luxury starts desperately handing out freebies, the entire fragile illusion of exclusivity shatters. Yet the Strip is trapped, knowing that standing still is a death sentence. These clumsy experiments with giveaways are more than just awkward. They betray a terrifying realization dawning in the boardrooms. If this city has any hope of survival, it must abandon its predatory model of charging for every breath you take and rediscover how to make visitors feel like they're actually winning again. And this crisis forces our hand to the next, even more alarming chapter in this decline, because some hotels are now abandoning the charade of discounts and perks entirely. They are unleashing strategies that threaten to fundamentally dismantle the very essence of a Las Vegas trip. We're talking about gutting costs, decimating service. This is the cold new face of Vegas hotels. Dare to step inside a Vegas hotel today, and you'll be struck by a chilling emptiness. The front desks are eerily quiet. The restaurants haunted by skeleton crews, and the promise of a fresh room has vanished, with housekeeping now a privilege you must beg for. Don't be fooled, this is no accident. It is a cold, calculated strategy born from the terror of plummeting tourism. These hotels are secretly transforming from temples of hospitality into ruthless cost-cutting machines, desperately clawing at profits as their occupancy evaporates. And this betrayal matters because Las Vegas built its entire empire on one thing: legendary hospitality. People weren't just lured in by cheap food and neon glows, they came for an experience where the service itself felt like a jackpot, something truly larger than life. It was a time when dealers remembered your name, when housekeepers treated your room like a sanctuary, when the staff made you feel like a high roller, even if you only paid $99 for a room. But when you rip away that service, you are ripping out the very soul of the Las Vegas experience. Yet from the cold, detached perspective of the boardroom, these cuts are painted as unavoidable. Labor costs are a burden, they cry, and in 2025, wages are climbing while the guests disappear. A 7% plunge in hotel occupancy might not sound like the apocalypse to you, but for them it's a plague of thousands upon thousands of empty, silent rooms. And in a desperate bid for survival, these properties are resorting to the cold embrace of automation and self-check-in kiosks. They're pushing mobile keys and even installing robotic bartenders. For the executives crunching the numbers, the logic is brutally simple. Every human job eliminated is another dollar for their bottom line. For the actual guests, however, this trade-off is a waking nightmare. A city once defined by its vibrant human energy is now on the verge of feeling sterile, cold, and ruthlessly corporate. And the fallout doesn't end there. This deliberate understaffing inevitably creates infuriating bottlenecks. Tourists, already seething from exorbitant fees and price-gouged meals, are now condemned to endless waits for even basic service. One couple from Wisconsin, interviewed right on the Strip, confessed they felt utterly cheated this year, lamenting that the city has lost its vibrant, welcoming spirit. And that kind of poison spreads like wildfire. In the age of social media, one viral video exposing this pathetic service can incinerate millions in advertising overnight. And yet, they cling to the logic of their strategy. By replacing people with machines and slashing their workforce, the hotels think they're buying themselves time to stop the bleeding and pray for the tourists to return. But here lies the tragic, damning irony. The very measures they claim are keeping the lights on are in fact extinguishing the city's legendary glow. And while this cost-cutting is a pathetic retreat, the Strip isn't just hiding. It's making a final, desperate gamble on something far bigger. Because as we're about to witness, the hotels of Las Vegas are now pivoting hard towards colossal events and mega experiences, staking everything on the belief that raw spectacle and not when the cheap tricks of room discounts and insulting freebies fail to fill their cavernous hotel towers, Las Vegas is left with only one card left to play: pure, overwhelming spectacle. In a frantic scramble over the past few years, the city has gone all in on mega events, star-studded residencies, professional sports, and billion-dollar arenas, all to capture an audience that is clearly starting to walk away. We're talking about the Sphere, Allegiant Stadium, and blockbuster residencies from icons like Adele and U2. This isn't just entertainment, these are the desperate lifelines for hotels terrified of their lobbies falling silent. And why this radical desperate shift? Because the very foundation of their traditional tourism model is not just faltering, it is catastrophically collapsing. Consider this. Hotel occupancy plummeted to a mere 76% in July, a staggering 7% drop from the previous year. This isn't just a bad number, it's an unthinkable disaster for what is supposed to be the absolute peak of their season. The families that once flocked here for affordable fun are now recoiling in disgust at the outrageous price of a $40 burger and a $9 bottle of water. The loyal regulars, the lifeblood of casinos like MGM and Caesars, are now forced to slash their visits to a mere once a year, or worse, abandon the city entirely. And the corporate response? A desperate bet that the blinding spectacle of massive events will somehow make people forget they're being bled dry. And here's the terrifying part. To a degree, this high-stakes gamble is paying off. A sold-out NFL game or a residency by some global icon can indeed flood the city with tens of thousands of unsuspecting visitors. Every single one of them, a fresh wallet to be emptied, booking overpriced rooms, paying for exorbitant meals, and pouring money onto the casino floors. For a fleeting weekend, it paints a perfect illusion of a booming Vegas. But this is a house of cards. The terrifying danger lies in its complete lack of sustainability, because these events are just sporadic jolts, not a steady heartbeat. You cannot build a stable economy when your entire financial future hinges on the tour schedule of a pop star. And let's not forget the staggering cost. These mega projects are built on mountains of risky debt, with price tags soaring into the billions of dollars. The hotel empires are banking everything on a tidal wave of future visitors to justify this insane spending spree. But what happens if that wave never comes and tourism continues its terrifying decline? These glittering new arenas will transform into colossal monuments to corporate greed, hollow, underutilized shells that will financially crush the very companies they were supposed to rescue. And the guests? They're finally waking up to this grotesque imbalance. A first-timer might be mesmerized by a shiny new sphere, but the seasoned visitors, the ones who knew the real Vegas, are mourning its loss. They missed the city where every weekend was a spectacle in itself, where you didn't need a $500 concert ticket just to feel the magic. To put it bluntly, this mega event gamble is a coin toss between resurrection and ruin. And this is where the plot thickens, as some hotels, realizing their cheap tricks are failing, are now desperately trying to reinvent the very concept of loyalty. They call it the loyalty reset, a cynical campaign to reprogram rewards and manipulate you into coming back. For decades, loyalty was the sacred pact that powered Las Vegas. Gamblers faithfully swiped their total rewards or M-Life cards, accumulating points and returning like clockwork to claim their well-earned complimentary rooms, buffets, and show tickets. But then the corporate greed took over. The Strip's soul was sold for hidden fees and a relentless nickel and diming strategy that shattered that trust. And now, with visitor numbers in free fall, these same hotels are scrambling to piece back together the trust they so arrogantly destroyed. Their chosen weapon in this fight? The very loyalty programs they gutted. Suddenly, Caesars is launching aggressive promotions, dangling a meager 20% discount as bait for early bookings. MGM is throwing in cheap perks like holiday gift shop credits and waving the flag with veterans discounts. Some are even toying with so-called experience credits, letting you burn your hard-earned points on a Ferris wheel ride or a trip up a replica tower. How generous! The message couldn't be more transparent. Vegas is desperate to be your top pick again, and they're willing to bribe you in the cheap currency of points and perks to keep you crawling back. But here is the fatal flaw in their plan. You can't buy loyalty with coupons, and the evidence is damning. In our own interviews, repeat visitors openly mocked whether these programs were anything more than hype. Christina, a newcomer, just shrugged off the so-called incentives, while her seasoned travel partner, Debbie, bluntly admitted they weren't nearly enough to justify coming back. Listen closely. When the die-hard regulars, the people who used to make this pilgrimage multiple times a year, start to hesitate, that is the deafening alarm bell of a much deeper decay. From a purely economic standpoint, these loyalty schemes are a dangerous gamble. Points and perks hemorrhage money in a city where every single percentage point of occupancy is a matter of survival. The hotels are now trapped on a razor's edge. Offer too little and nobody cares. Offer too much and you're just bleeding out your own profits. But what's worse, what's truly toxic, is when guests feel they're being bribed, not valued. The entire brand gets tarnished. Las Vegas was built on the grand illusion of generosity. The promise was always that the house takes care of you. But when those perks feel more like flimsy coupons from a discount mailer, the spell is broken. Yet, these desperate loyalty resets do reveal one critical truth. The Vegas behemoths are finally, belatedly, remembering a basic business principle. It's cheaper to keep a customer than to constantly hunt for a new one. They're placing a frantic bet that by slapping a new coat of paint on these loyalty schemes, they can reignite old habits before they are extinguished forever. But there is one gaping wound that no amount of loyalty points can ever hope to heal. It may be the single biggest obstacle they face, the absolutely crushing weight of unaffordability and the plague of hidden costs. And that is precisely the abyss we are staring into next. The Great Affordability Crisis. How hidden fees are systematically driving tourists away. Ask anyone who has dared to visit Vegas in 2025 what infuriates them the most. And their answer won't be the rigged blackjack odds or the blistering summer heat. It is the outrageous, insulting cost of absolutely everything. From $40 burgers to the infamous $9 bottle of water. The outrage is palpable. Visitors are being bled dry by the sticker shock. But it's the hidden venom that truly stings. Resort fees, parking gouges, and bogus convenience surcharges that magically transform a $150 room into a nearly $300 nightmare. For a city that built its legend on being the land of cheap thrills, this greedy reversal isn't just a change. It's a catastrophic betrayal of its very soul. And the cold hard numbers scream a warning that no one can ignore. Hotel occupancy, once a rock-solid 90% on peak weekends, has plummeted to a dismal 76% this past July. A 7% freefall in just 1 year. This isn't just a decline, it's a poison seeping through the city's veins, choking the life out of not just the hotels, but every restaurant, nightclub, and casino that feeds on the once unstoppable river of tourists. When people feel they're being systematically fleeced at every turn, why would they ever splurge at the tables? The only thing they're gambling on is how fast they can leave and never come back. But the financial hit is nothing compared to the psychological wound. This crisis of affordability is far more corrosive. Vegas sold a global dream that for one weekend, anyone could be a king. You didn't need a millionaire's bankroll. You just needed to show up. That promise now lies in ruins. Now, the very backbone of its customer base, middle-class families from Wisconsin, Texas, or Ontario, are walking away disgusted, feeling utterly underwhelmed, completely overcharged, and vowing never to return. And in the digital age, that word-of-mouth poison amplified 1,000,000 times over on TikTok and Instagram is a death sentence that can devastate a destination faster than any recession. The hotels are scrambling, throwing out pathetic discounts and hollow perks, but it's a band-aid on a gaping wound. The elephant in the room is screaming. The core costs are obscenely high. A few free show tickets or a measly 20% off a t-shirt does nothing to erase the sting of being gouged for the basics. And here is the truly bitter irony. While gutting their services, as we've already exposed, they're charging more, creating a toxic cocktail of higher bills and rock-bottom satisfaction. For the investors and executives in their ivory towers, this crisis of affordability forces a terrifying question. Has Vegas, in its insatiable greed, permanently alienated the very people who built this city? If the Strip becomes a playground exclusively for the rich, then the entire economic model that sustained this city for decades is utterly shattered. And that horrifying realization is forcing them into their most desperate gamble yet. They're not just reinventing their marketing, they're trying to reinvent reality itself. They're trying to rebuild the brand from the ashes of their own making. They are desperately trying to sell the illusion all over again. Because Las Vegas was never just a city. It was a powerful brand, a seductive promise that whispered, "Come here and escape your ordinary life." But what happens when that promise is exposed as a hollow sham, when the whispers of escape are drowned out by the screams of outrage over predatory prices? Gutted services and profoundly underwhelming experiences? The brand itself is on the verge of collapse. And that's why the hotels and the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, the LVCVA, are launching a desperate, full-scale rebranding campaign, trying to sell the city not as the gritty Sin City of old, but as some sanitized theme park of curated experiences. Suddenly, billboards that once screamed about cheap buffets now peddle vague, immersive packages. Digital ads dangle the bait of exclusive access to concerts, rooftop pools, and so-called culinary tours. Even the discounts are disguised. They're no longer bargains, but special rewards for insiders. A pathetic attempt to make you feel special while they pick your pocket. The strategy is transparently cynical. Slap a coat of aspirational paint over the rotting wood of desperation. It's all just glossy language to hide the ugly truth. And make no mistake, this shift is a life or death gamble. Branding isn't just cosmetic, it's about economic survival, preying on the fact that people will stomach higher costs if you trick them into believing they're buying exclusivity. By cloaking their meager discounts in the language of luxury, the hotels hope to conjure the illusion that Vegas is still the world's premier playground, even as the foundations crumble. It's a masterclass in deception. Instead of an honest 20% off, Caesars shamelessly pitches it as a limited VIP opportunity. MGM has the audacity to call a gift shop credit a holiday experience. It's the exact same paltry discount, just wrapped in a bow of false prestige. But this is a dangerous game. All this over-the-top branding with zero substance is a ticking time bomb. When visitors discover their exclusive perk is a single bottle of water or a ticket to a half-empty show, the disillusionment becomes a deep, burning resentment. And the repeat visitors, the ones who remember the real Vegas, are the ones they can never fool. When they see this new branding for the cheap smoke and mirrors trick it is, they won't just quietly leave. They will unleash a firestorm of their disappointment online for the world to see. Yet, this frantic push to reinvent everything reveals one terrifying truth. The hotels know how grave the threat is. They understand that no amount of fiddling with prices or perks can save them from the disaster they've created. They are desperately scrambling to restore the myth, because without its shimmering illusion of glamour, Vegas is nothing but an overpriced, sun-scorched desert trap. And while slick marketing campaigns can slap a coat of paint on the problem, the real battle is a cancer festering deep within the social fabric, defined by who is still being lured to Las Vegas and who is fleeing in disgust. A demographic earthquake is shaking this city to its foundations. Who is still coming to Vegas, and who has abandoned it for good? For decades, Las Vegas feasted on a predictable, reliable cycle. Baby boomers swarmed in for their retirement weekends, Gen Xers descended for their ritualistic bachelor parties, and Canadians fled their brutal winters to flood the Strip with cash. But now, in the harsh light of 2025, that once steady mix is crumbling to dust, and the demographic shifts are telling a horrifying tale of decline. The first omen: repeat visitors are vanishing. The regulars from the Midwest are gone. Consider the Wisconsin couple, interviewed over a desolate Labor Day, who openly confessed how utterly betrayed they felt this year. They once made the pilgrimage multiple times annually. Now, even with the barrage of hotel discounts and veterans perks, they're questioning whether this hollowed-out shell is worth a single penny more. When your most devout followers begin to abandon you, the warning sirens are screaming. Next, the international lifeline is being systematically strangled. Canadians, once the Strip's largest and most vital foreign market, are staying away. They're recoiling from the obscene costs, the hostile border experiences, and the blatantly better deals popping up everywhere else. Throw in a predatory US dollar that makes every single Vegas purchase feel like an act of financial surrender. And what you get is a catastrophic hemorrhage of international spending power. In a city that built its empire on the wallets of foreigners ready to splurge, this is a devastating blow. The younger demographics present an even more terrifying challenge. Gen Z and younger millennials have absolutely no allegiance to the sacred cow of gambling that their parents worshipped. Instead of the soul-crushing drone of slot machines, they crave experiences they can flaunt on TikTok, electrifying EDM festivals, and a vibrant nightlife. Yet, when they're confronted with the insult of $9 bottled water and the $55 shakedown of resort fees, even they start looking for an escape. They're fleeing to cities with nightlife that don't engage in such predatory gouging. A city built on the altar of gaming revenue now finds itself pathetically catering to an audience that spends less time on the casino floor and more time online, desperately trying to dodge the next ripoff. And then there is the gaping, unbridgeable chasm of affordability. The wealthy elites can still indulge in VIP tables and drop $500 on concert seats without a thought. But the middle-class tourists, the very lifeblood that once gave Vegas its energy, are being systematically priced out and exiled. Without that broad foundation, the city is on the verge of becoming a sterile playground only for the ultra-rich. It's a delusional model that might work for Monaco, but it is a death sentence for a city built on mass appeal. These demographic shifts are far more than just statistics. They are a chilling prophecy of the city's grim future. If Vegas refuses to wake from this corporate slumber, it will slowly bleed out its relevance as entire generations and the whole middle class vote with their wallets and abandon it forever. Which brings us to the Strip's most catastrophic challenge of all: the looming, terrifying question of its own identity. Is Vegas still a place for everyone? Or has it stumbled headfirst into a full-blown, soul-crushing identity crisis? The identity crisis. What has Las Vegas become? For nearly a century, the city's identity was crystal clear. It was the grand city of reinvention, where the working class could feel like royalty for a weekend. where neon lights screamed of freedom, and where every single gamble, win or lose, was part of the thrill. But in the cold, hard reality of 2025, that identity lies shattered, and the jagged cracks are showing everywhere you look. Ask any tourist on the street today, and you'll hear the same heartbreaking refrain. Vegas doesn't feel like Vegas anymore. Instead of the excitement of a good deal, they feel the constant grinding assault of being nickel and dimed by parasitic resort fees. They're crushed by grotesquely overpriced meals and a minefield of hidden surcharges. Instead of warm human service, they encounter the cold indifference of automation and the ghosts of corporate cutbacks. Instead of the joy of spontaneity, they find themselves herded into curated VIP experiences that cost a fortune but deliver absolutely nothing of substance. What was once the most democratic form of escape in America is being twisted into something else. Something narrower, prohibitively pricier, and what a growing chorus would scream is utterly soulless. For the hotels, this identity crisis is nothing short of existential. Do they dare to double down on this dangerous path of exclusivity, positioning Las Vegas as a gilded cage for the wealthy few? Or do they attempt the impossible and try to restore the middle-class magic, slashing their obscene costs and rebuilding the loyalty they so carelessly torched, at the risk of their precious short-term profits? Right now, the Strip seems paralyzed in the middle, dangling pathetic discounts with one hand while charging premium rates with the other. The result is sheer confusion, not clarity. The stakes could not possibly be higher. If Vegas makes the wrong choice, it risks losing both sides of the war. The wealthy, who can find genuine exclusivity in Monaco or Dubai, and the middle class, who are already finding better and more affordable fun in Miami, Nashville, or even on cruise ships. The very question is a terrifying one. The damning question, who is Vegas even for anymore, lingers like a toxic neon smog over the entire skyline. While some industry insiders dare to argue this catastrophic identity crisis is merely temporary, just another cheap reinvention in the city's long, checkered history. But a growing chorus of voices is sounding the alarm, warning that this time is dangerously different because the fundamental social contract has been shattered. When even the most devoted, loyal visitors openly state they have no reason to ever come back, no amount of slick rebranding can possibly patch that gaping wound. In a desperate panic, the Las Vegas hotels are fighting back with pathetic discounts, hollow perks, and gaudy mega events. But until they confront what this city truly stands for, the Strip is doomed to remain trapped between a ghost of its past glory and a future shrouded in absolute uncertainty. So there you have it, the grim reality. Las Vegas hotels are frantically throwing everything at the wall, from cheap gimmicks to colossal shows, to fight a tourism freefall that's spiraling into something far worse than anyone ever dared to imagine. But the core question still haunts this city. Who is Vegas really for now? I demand to know your thoughts in the comments, and don't you dare forget to like and subscribe for more investigations that refuse to pull any punches.